Hey everybody, it's Ropeness247 and welcome to a special video that I have, technically. Uh, this video is in response to the recent addition to the Mystery Dungeon series. Well, I guess you can say recent addition. And that being Rescue Team DX for the Nintendo Switch, which is essentially a remake of the first Mystery Dungeon games, Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team. And I've got some interesting thoughts about it. After playing it for a little bit, I had noticed some interesting things regarding it. But before we get into that, I'd like to explain a little bit my history with the Mystery Dungeon series. And bear in mind, all of this will be unscripted, so get ready for some whatnot to go down. Now, first off, starting with Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, it was a game that I just so happened to stumble upon. When I was young, I had no idea that that was an actual series altogether. And it was at my aunt's house. It just so happened to be at my aunt's house where I found that game. I just so happened to have my DS with me, and I found it, and I was thinking, what is Blue Rescue Team? So I end up picking the game up, played it, and let's just say it changed a lot of things for me for the better. After playing it, I fell in love with it almost immediately. Whether it be because of the music, it's a lot of things that we'll be getting into detail with. But anyway, the game was big good, fat good, so to speak. I remember being on the bus in 5th grade, and I'd be playing it. It's a lot of nice things that come from playing a game like that, and it really, I guess you could say, it really opened up a lot of interesting points. I don't know what I'm talking about. Not only that, my first video on YouTube just so happens to be me actually playing Blue Rescue Team. As cringy as that video may be, believe me, I went back and watched it not too long ago, and it's worse than I thought. Good grief, it's bad. It's bad. But anyway, it just goes to show that that game has history, and it just goes to show that it's like, yes, especially when it comes to the music, especially, is probably one of my favorites. The aspect of the roguelike dungeon, it's essentially my first roguelike dungeon game that I've played. And it's very, I guess you could say it's technically a good place to start. I don't know what I'm talking about. At least for me, it was nice. At least for me. Now, you may be thinking, where am I trying to drive the point with this? Well, then we move to Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX, because unfortunately, I have not played any of the other Mystery Dungeon games at all. I hear Explorer of Time and Darkness and Sky are very good. I hear a lot of positive things about that. So one of these days, I'll have to pick up that game for myself. Super Mystery Dungeon and Gates to Infinity, I have not gotten a chance to get my hands on those games, so I'll have to try and play those and see what I think about them. But since Rescue Team DX hit so close to home, I had high expectations for it. Number one, it's the first Rescue Team game that I played, so it would be nice to technically have a trip down memory lane through a new set of, I guess you could say, a new set of music, the new set of graphics, and essentially the new mechanics. And so I thought, well, yeah, it would be a good idea for me to get it. And so, the very day it comes out, I end up purchasing it. And then I played it for a little bit. And then I had noticed there were a few changes to it. One of those changes is, and I guess you could say that I'll be nitpicking at this, so to speak. There's no adventure log for your your career as an adventurer, where it tells you all the people you've recruited, the moves you've learned, um, essentially how far you've gotten plot wise and other things. It doesn't have that. I had noticed that recently. Uh, Wonder Mail is technically back. Everyone, I'm sure, knows how busted Wonder Mail was in the first games. The fact that you could just get yourself infinite amount of ginsengs on tiny woods, it's stupid. It's stupid. Some something like that. Anyway, technical Wonder Mail is back. I had noticed some other differences, but there are some things I guess you could say I'll be nitpicking at, and we might as well go down the list of what they were. The first one being the controls were different. When I was jumping into this game, I was expecting the controls to be just like the Game Boy Advance slash DS controls that I grew up with, essentially with everything being from your, I guess you could say your normal attack and then your moves, and using the L and R buttons to look around and things of that nature, and setting your items and things of that nature. It's not the same in Rescue Team DX. A lot of the moves that you're given are kind of busted. That's one thing. Uh, but that's aside from that. With the controls being changed, it was kind of awkward for me. I guess I'm not used to the, I guess you'd want to say the simplified controls, because that's honestly what they felt like to me. I feel like the controls were very simplified compared to what you were used to in the original games of Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team. So I was kind of, I guess you could say I was a little disappointed, so to speak, in something like that. Uh, the music is phenomenal. We'll just put it that way. Obviously, the music was from what I've heard so far, it's a good one. You best believe it. Music is for Mystery Dungeon Red and Blue, or probably, it's so good. I love the music in those games, and being able to hear it in a different in the HD glory, so to speak. It makes me happy for the most part. Some changes in it too, even in the square, where Wish Cash Pond no longer plays the menu theme. Instead, it's simply has the Pokemon Square theme. I thought that was kind of weird that they do something like that. And then the fact that your Pelipper guild, or not guild, I'm sorry, this isn't Dagon Explorers. Your Pelipper place, I guess. Oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. Your the office for Pelipper Mail has no music. It merely has the sound of the ocean, which I don't mind at all. But once you go inside, it plays the menu theme for Mystery Dungeon, which I thought was kind of weird. It's like, wait a minute, shouldn't those things be switched? I don't know. It was kind of weird. But anyway, to really sum it all up, it really does feel like it would be catered more towards people who've never played the Mystery Dungeon series. It almost feels like it almost feels like a Let's Go Mystery Dungeon title, if you understand what I mean by that. Given that the controls are simplified compared to what I'm used to, and the fact that some of the things that were, I guess you could say, I mean, even the small changes I could see. And I like when you push your partner in a certain direction. I know that might have been in prior Mystery Dungeon games. I think Super Mystery Dungeon has something similar to it. That's just, I guess it's just something I'm not used to. That's one thing. Uh, but yeah, that's really all I have to say for it. If I were to rate um if I were to rate Rescue Team DX, to be honest with you, I'd kind of feel like it would be a 9 out of 10. Maybe a 9 or an 8 out of 10. The gameplay, it's fine. Uh, Aside from the fact that, with the things stated and all um, regarding the controls and things like that. And another thing, they also took out I guess you could say, your normal attack, because in the original games, you'd simply press the A button and you can be able to attack. That's no longer in Rescue Team. That's no longer in the game. They took that out in Rescue Team DX, which I thought was kind of weird. But then again, I guess you could kind of understand, so to speak, why. Because of the sheer fact that, well, the auto attack was, relatively broken, so to speak. If you were a high enough level, you could possibly just two-shot a lot of things with just using that alone. Essentially, it's like you're saying you only have to use 10% of your power. Something stupid like that. I don't know. But anyway, aside from that, it honestly reminds me of something that I played not too long ago. Now, many of you may know of a game on the App Store known as Labyrinth of the Witch, and that game plays a lot like Mystery Dungeon, from the fact that the control scheme is very similar. The tiles, the items, and things like that, the combat system, it's very reminiscent to Mystery Dungeon, well, at least the first game. It's very reminiscent to that. Now, that game is a whole nother discussion on its own. But it honestly, that game's controls honestly feel more like the original Mystery Dungeon than Rescue Team DX does. Which is kind of weird, I guess. But as I stated before, Rescue Team DX does kind of feel more catered to people who've never played the Mystery Dungeon games as a whole. Would I recommend it? I mean, in order to hear that music, yeah, most definitely. To relive the cutscenes and, their 3D rendered glory, I mean, you might as well have at it. I mean, the pixels, the 2D graphics are fine on their own, essentially. If you like something that's very colorful, something that's, I guess you could say, fair, then you might as well. It's surely something that I, for myself personally, when I played it, it made me want to play the original ones again. And that's not necessarily a good thing. The changes that were in it kind of felt bad to me. It was almost disappointing that it wasn't, I guess you could say, as faithful to the original. And one other detail, even including the mailbox. For example, your partner would tell you to check the mailbox in order to see if there's any job offers. And in the original Mystery Dungeon game, you would go to the side or the back of the mailbox and it would say there's a warning on the side of the mailbox that says to open it from the front. That's not even in the game in Rescue Team DX, which I thought was kind of weird, and I was thinking, oh, I'm surprised they took something like that out. But I understand it's a small detail, but those small things do add up, if you know what I mean. But I guess that's really all that has to be said. My final rating for the game would possibly be, I guess it would probably be an 8 out of 10, to be honest with you. Just for the sheer fact that the controls feel really simplified and different compared to what I'm used to. It's it's interesting. It's interesting. It made me want to really play the original games again, which is kind of a bad thing considering that it's the HD remake. And it's like, just imagine if Super Mario Odyssey made you feel like you wanted to go back and play essentially Super Mario 64, and not for a good reason. Odyssey, for example, we'll just use this as a hypothetical. If Odyssey was very reminiscent to, you could say Odyssey was a remake to 64, but it changed so many things that it doesn't even feel like 64 anymore, but it makes you feel like you want to go back and play the original one. I kind of felt the same way when playing Rescue Team DX. Even though a lot of this has been already been stated, now at this point it truly is just me rambling on about Mystery Dungeon. But how I personally feel about it, to be honest, I'm slightly disappointed. To be honest, I thought it would be I guess you could say the true reminiscence and faithful recreation of the original. Which, not saying that it isn't. It's just that the small changes kind of make it difficult for me to really get into it as much as I would. But that's basically all that I have to share for Rescue Team DX. And surely many people will be streaming it, enjoying it, and doing other things and talking about it and whatnot. So I think this is where we will end our review of this game, so to speak. I am the Rodents 247. I'm out of here, and I will see you all next time.